Wahaha, math. Good morning, 7th graders. Today we are starting Chapter 3, Lesson 1, Percent of a Number. Super easy. I cannot wait to get started. You all are going to make hundreds, and you're all going to understand it. You will be able to find this cheat sheet in Google Classroom under Important Information and Tidbits. So I'm sure that you've all been taught when you're dealing with percent, fractions, and decimals that, well, let me back up. Here is my little cheat sheet. Let me just start with that. We have FDP. Fraction stands for F, D stands for decimal, and P stands for percent. Excuse me. When you are going to percent of a whole number, you have to turn your percent to a decimal. And I have this little flow chart right here that says percent to decimal, divide by 100, or move your decimal 2 places to the left. So when we have a number and we're trying to find the percent of that number, we're going to have to turn that percent to a decimal, because a decimal is then in number form, and then we can multiply that by the number. But you cannot multiply percent by a number without turning it into a decimal first. All right, because percent stands for per 100. It is in a different form than a whole number, an integer, or whatever, okay, or a rational number. It's a percent. It is a rational number, but it's in a different form, and we need it to get into decimal form. All right, so like I said, percent to decimal, we're going to divide by 100, or we're going to add a decimal to the end of the percent and move it 2 decimal places. All right, now, and this has nothing really to do with today, but if you were wanting to go decimal to percent, we would multiply by 100, or we would move our decimal to the right 2 places. All right, so I just wanted to show you guys this. This is located in Google Classroom, again, under Resources at the very top of Google Classroom, and it's all the way at the bottom of the resources, which is information, important information, and tidbits. All right, so let's get to some easy examples, but we need to keep in mind that we're doing 55% of 140, okay? 55%. Now let's think about 50%. What's 50%? Half of 100, right? It's half. So half of 140 is 70. So our answer should be more than 70, because we're talking about 55% of 140. So it needs to be bigger than 70. If it's not bigger than 70, we've done something wrong. And if it is gigantic, bigger than 70, then we've done something wrong. Okay, so I want you to try to keep in mind, I wouldn't say that that's an estimation. Well, I guess it is. We're just estimating about what our answer is going to be. We want to make sure that when we're done, our answer is reasonable. All right, so like I said, with my cheat sheet I showed you, 55%, we have to change this 55%, this percent, to a decimal. So in order to do that, we're going to drop the decimal, the percent sign, sorry, and we're going to add a decimal right here, okay? But that's not it. It's not 55. We have to turn it to a decimal. So we have to move it by dividing it by 100. So we would technically be moving it 2 decimal places to the left. Okay, now if you divided 55 by 100, okay, 100 cannot go into 55. So I'd have to add a decimal, bring it up, and I'd have to add a 0. Now 100 will go into 550 5 times. 5 times 100 is 500. Then we're left with 50. Add a 0, bring it down. 5 again. 500, 0. That is why it's easier just to move the decimal 2 places to the left. If you want to divide your percent by 100 every time, by all means do it. However, I'm not doing that. I'm just moving it 2 places to the left, okay? All right, so now our new decimal is 55 hundredths. So 55 hundredths of, and we know of means to multiply, 140. Okay, so 140 times 55. All right. 0 times 5 is 0. 4 times 5 is 20. The 0 can stay. The 2 gots to go. 1 times 5 is 5. 5 plus 2 is 7. Okay? 0 times 5 is 0. 4 times 5 is 20. The 0 can stay. The 2 gots to go. 1 times 5 is 5. 5 plus 2 is 7. All right, so we have 0, 0, 7, 7. Move our decimal 2 places. 77. Now, that is close to 70, and it is bigger than 70. Just what we had anticipated or estimated. All right, next, I'm going to do some fairly easy ones, and then we'll get kind of harder. We're going to do 40% of 123. 40% of 123. Now, I'm going to turn this to a percent. 0.40, okay? I'm actually going to drop my 0, and I'm just going to do 0.4. So 123 times 0.4. 3 times 4 is 12. The 2 can stay. The 1 gots to go. 2 times 4 is 8. 8 plus 1 is 9. 1 times 4 is 4. And I'm going to bring my decimal over. 49 and 2/10, okay? Which kind of makes sense. So like this one will be a little harder to estimate because this is not quite 50. So we know it needs to be well under half of 123. So that one wasn't very easy to estimate. And I should have done that before, and I'm sorry I didn't address that first. All right, 2 more easy examples, and then we'll get to a little bit more difficult. 126% of 350. 350, I said? Yes. Okay. Now, this one is one that y'all might have trouble with. I'm going to change it to a decimal. I'm still just moving it 2 places. I'm just dividing it by 100. Okay? Sticking with it. All right, now, I have 350 times 1.26. Now, look at 350 times 1. So we're only going to be adding to 350 a little bit more than 1, okay? Let's see. Not 1, like, I shouldn't have said that. 1% of 350 would be 3. Okay, so we're adding a little bit more than 3. All right. Actually, 1% of 350 would be 3.5. All right, so 0 times 6 is 0. 5 times 6 is 30. The 0 can stay. The 3 gots to go. 3 times 6 is 18. 18 plus 3, 19, 20, 21. Okay, I've already used that. Now, 0 times 2 is 0. 5 times 2 is 10. The 0 can stay. The 1 gots to go. 3 times 2 is 6. And 6 plus 1 is 7. Add 2 zeros now. 1 times 0 is 0. 1 times 5 is 5. And 1 times 3 is 3. So 0, 0, 1. Add the 2 to 5. That makes it 7. 7 times 7 is 14. 4 can stay. 1 gots to go. And I have 2 decimal places. Okay. So 441. Okay. And I am. Okay, so anyway, so here's our answer. Sorry, I got sidetracked. I lost my train of thought for a second. All right, we have one more. I don't think it's that difficult. All right, 4.1 of 30. Okay. This one has a percent, okay? a decimal, I apologize. Okay, so we're going to take this 4.1 and we're going to move it 2 places and add a 0. Okay, so 0, 41 hundredths of 30. Okay, so now we've got to multiply this. I'm going to do the 0 trick, leave that 0 hanging off. So we'll do, choose a different color, it's kind of light. Let's do 30, and then I'm going to do 140. Actually, do this different. 0.041 and the 3 on the bottom, 30 on the bottom. Okay, that 0 I'm just going to bring down. 1 times 3 is 3. By the way, I hope that at this point you've paused to see if you're getting the right answers. 4 times 3 is 12. The 2 can stay. The 1 got to go. 0 times 3 is 0 plus 1 is 1. So I've got to move my decimal 3 places. Ooh. 1, 2, 3 with a decimal in the middle. How easy is that? I also saw one while ago. Hold on. I do want to do one more. This one this is going to be kind of tricky. I want you guys to pause the video and I want you to try this one, okay? Oh, no. Don't pause the video. That's coming up next. Make sure, though, that you have scratch paper and that you're going to be practicing these with me, okay? Okay, so these are going to be just a little bit more difficult, and I wouldn't even really classify them as difficult, but here we go. So we've got 5/6% of 600. So we have a fraction. So we must turn that fraction into a decimal percent, and then move the decimal 2 places to the left, and then multiply it by 600. So it is a little bit confusing. Okay, so we've got to turn this fraction, we're going to turn it, we're going to TiVo it, we're going to turn it into a decimal, but it's still in percent form, okay? So 5 goes in the division box, 6 goes out, okay? 6 goes into 50, 8 times, right? 8 times 6 is 48. 50 minus 48 is 2. And I'm going to bring down 1 0. Okay, 6 will go into 20 3 times. 3 times 6 is 18. And I've got a 2, and it looks like it's going to be a repeating decimal, 0.833. So I'm just going to round this to 2 decimal places, and I'm going to make it 0.83. Okay, so now we have 0.83%. All right, so we've got to, let me switch colors. We've got to move the decimal 2 places to the left. We're dividing by 100. And it actually will be, it's going to be, we're going to have 0.0083. And we're going to multiply that by 600. And I'm going to leave these zeros hanging off because I can do that because I only have one whole number. And it just skips some steps. I like multiplying by hundreds, tens, thousands. You just leave the zeros off, but it can only work if you have 1 digit in that far left place value. If it was 610, this wouldn't work. I couldn't leave that 0 hanging off. Okay, so 3 times 6 is 18. The 8 can stay. The 1 got to go. 8 times 6 is 48, and 48 plus 1 is 49. The 9 can stay. The 4 got to go. 0 times 6 is 0 plus 4 is 4, and 0 times 6 is 0. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4 decimal places. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, so I have 4.98. Now, if they asked me, where I got these examples, they asked me to round this to the nearest whole number. Okay? So this 8 would bump this up to a 10, which would bump this up to a 5. And that's really close. So we would say, I would probably not even use that. I'd probably use the about equal to 5. Okay? All right, so remember, Yes, this was a fractional percent. We had to turn it to a decimal. I wrote a decimal percent. Then turn it to a decimal, okay? Then you can multiply. So, all right, we've got a couple more examples. All right, I hope you're practicing these. Okay, so now we have 0.25%, sorry, of 150. Okay, this isn't that hard. So I'm going to take this and I've got to turn it to a decimal. So I got to move it 2 places to the left. Okay. Now I can't see how this has a 5. So now I can't leave my 0 hanging off. It's not going to work. All right. So I'm going to actually put this number on top. 0025 times 150. Okay. 0 times everything is going to be 0. All right. I'm going to add a 0. 5 times 5 is 25. The 5 can stay. The 2 got to go. 2 times 5 is 10. 10 plus 2 is 12. 2 can stay. 1 got to go. 0 times 5 is 0 plus 1 is 1. And 0 times 5 is 0. Right now I'm going to add 2 zeros. Scratch these out. Scratch that out. Now 1 times 5 is 5. 1 times 2 is 2. 0. 1 times 0 is 0. 1 times 0 is 0. So we have 0, 5, 7, 3, 0, 0. And I've got to move it 1, 2, 3, 4 decimal places. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, now this one wanted me to round this to 2 decimal places. So this 5 right here is in my 3rd decimal place. So, or it'll say nearest hundredth. Okay, so this 5 right here is going to determine what happens to the 7. 5 or more, let it score. 4 or less, let it rest. This is 5 or more, so that's going to score. So the answer would be 0.38. Okay? All right, guys, we got one more. And I'm sorry, this is going to be the hardest one. But I'm doing the hardest one with you because I love you and I want you to better yourself. Okay? We're going to do 100% of 56. Okay? And I need to write better. This will look really good. Okay? Oh, 100% of 56. All right, so we've got to turn this to a decimal, and we have 100. So 1, 2. All right, so we just got the number 1. 56 times 1. 1 times 6 is 6. 5 times 1 is 5. So 100% of 56 is 56. No, I did not do, that was not the hardest one. But I wanted to save the easy one for last, and I wanted to see if I could trick some of you. So I hope you guys understand. You got to get this percent to decimal, then multiply. If it's a fraction, get it to a decimal, turn it from a percent to a decimal, then multiply it. Okay, guys, happy percentage.